If you're a parent and you're working with your high schooler teaching him or her to learn history, what do? Well, that's what I'm going to explain in this edition of Dr. Todd Explains. Hello, everyone. This is Todd Hart, and I'm real excited to come to you today in this video. I was having a really good conversation with a friend of mine the other day who's tutoring a loved one, a family member, in history. And the family member is about 14, 15 years of age. And he's a really smart kid, but he really doesn't all the time or doesn't always see the connection of how history fits together. And so sometimes as parents or tutors or teachers, we make the mistake of assuming a little bit more about the developmental levels of those that were our pupils. And at 14, 15, 16 years of age, the if-then clicker is not always working in the brain completely like it should yet. And so they're very good, kids that age are very good at understanding facts, memorizing facts, but when they don't see the big picture. So what we need to do, especially with a course like history, is we need to help them see that bigger picture. And the best way to think of it is to think about it in the form of a story. So let's say you're reading a chapter in a history textbook. That's going to be your unit of knowledge. And so here are some steps I think you could take that would be helpful or beneficial in helping your student or your pupil, your disciple, assimilate that information and incorporate it so they could do something with it later. It's important to understand facts. Let me start with that. It's in dates and those kind of things, but not at the expense of the story or the bigger picture. So what I would advocate doing is have your student read through the textbook chapter. Have them read, mark it up, highlights, notes in the margins as we've talked about in other videos. Then that's step one. So have them read through the text so that they at least are familiar with the text. They've got the big picture, if you will, of the lay of the land in that chapter. Second, have them draw or have them work through a rough outline, create it on their own, but here's where you're going to scaffold them, you're going to help them to pick out the big ideas and concepts. We can say we can be talking about the Civil War, and obviously, at least common knowledge is now that the Civil War was really a conflict regarding slavery, for instance. Well, the bigger picture, some in the South would say, especially back several years ago, that we'll know it was about states' rights. Well, if you look at a big picture of it, states' right to do what? Well, to maintain slaves. And if you looked at the constitutions of the Confederacy, the different state constitutions, so on and so forth, you'll see that that's what they were doing. So, not to get into a controversial item, but almost all historical items tend to be controversial, or there wouldn't be a conflict there. But the idea is help them see, hey, the Civil War was about slavery, it looks like. And have them rough in those ideas of the big ideas, the big concepts, almost in a chronological order. Third, so the first step, read the chapter. The second step, identify and roughly outline the big picture events, circumstances, situations, concepts, whatever's being taught in that chapter. What happened? Who were the actors and what happened? So that's the kind of the second step. The third step is to have them think over that and then come to you and tell you the story. Now, this is a rough story. This is the story of have them look over the big picture, but literally just basically look at them and say, look, teach me about it. Just tell me what happened. Tell me the story. And as they tell the story, you can provide feedback once they're finished on things they need to kind of shore up. That's kind of the third step, and that's a very important step that you need to take part in as the tutor or the teacher. The next step would be have them write a brief summary paragraph based on everything they know so far to where they tell the story again, but this time in written form. It could be a paragraph, it could be a page, whatever you decide as the instructor. But have them incorporate all the things they've learned as far as the big picture. We're not talking about, what year this was necessarily. We're looking at the big, tell me the flow of the narrative. What happened in the story? And then have them write it out. Now, then I would let it set a day or so. And then kind of as the final thing before any testing or assessment goes, is if possible, have them record their rendition of the story again to a video camera, to their phone, to a webcam, and have them save that. I would tell you, save it as an unlisted file to YouTube, or just put it on your computer somewhere. And here's why. That's actually a tutoring service that's going to be provided to them by their future or by their past selves. And so what I mean by that is, when they go to prepare for the exam, an essay question on the exam about the Civil War or whatever it is, they will then, they've already given you a kind of a talk about it. They've read the chapter and taken notes. They've roughed in an outline of the flow of events in the storyline. They have practiced that verbally and orally to you. They have written it out, and then they've also practiced it to themselves by giving the speech, if you will, or they told the story to themselves that they can review by watching the video again. By that time, I would argue that chances are they've got a pretty good idea of the story and the significance of that story. Now, what's beautiful about that is you can allow those little containers of wisdom, we'll call them, you can allow those containers to be reviewed periodically. And what happens is they start to see how, this thing in the Civil War led to how we conducted war in World War I, for instance, as far as battle tactics or whatever the thing is. But they can once we tell things in a story and we appropriate it into our souls, we really can use those, and it becomes part of our knowledge base, and then we can apply it wisely. And that's pretty much, assuming a neurotypically developing student, that should be a really easy thing for them to do. But what happens is they get sidetracked by trying to memorize dates and things like that, instead of focusing on the content of the story and carrying the storyline along. Well, I hope this has been helpful. If you like the work I'm doing here, please feel free to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that comment bell so that you can not miss any future videos. Also, if you have any questions or anything that you've done as far as helping teenagers learn history or any of the social sciences like that, and to be able to perform well on exams or essay tests, things like that, leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. I'm always wanting to learn. This is Dr. Todd, and God bless. I'll see you in the next video.